Good evening from Brownsburg, Indiana. We're 15 miles west of downtown Indianapolis at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Tonight hosting the ARCA Menards Series. Welcome to the Calypso 200.
The ARCA Menards Series, all of the teams are ready.
Long day, have fun. Let's go win it.
Green flag is in the air.
This is a great opportunity for these guys to showcase their talent.
It's so much more intense than I anticipated.
We had trouble. Hard contact. We got a big crash. This is a big one. I think we're going to see them in victory lane many more times. We are ready to go racing.
Going to be a fun night of racing, and we have a gorgeous evening for it. Low temperature tonight, down in the upper 60s. You might actually need a sweatshirt when we wrap up tonight here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. So good to have you with us, everybody, with Trevor Bain, Phil Parsons. I'm Adam Alexander. And what a field of cars led by William Sawalich. This kid is full of talent.
He is, and we would be talking about him as the championship leader, championship contender. The problem is he's not old enough. He's only 17 years old, so he's not able to run all the racetracks that ARCA Series goes to. But when he shows up, he does pretty darn well. Look at this. 3 wins out of his 5 starts, on second place finish at Iowa. He got wrecked at Dover, another race that he would have contended for. So he's going for 3 in a row. He's on the pole. He's always fast. He's also doing double duty, running the truck as well. So I think that extra track time with the truck is also going to help. But whenever you tee it up in one of these ARCA Menards races and that 18 of William Sawalich is in it, you know he's the car to beat.
Well, Phil, I want to talk about another 17-year-old, only 3 days away from being 18, Trackhouse development driver Connor Zilich. Normally when we think of his name, we think of road courses. He actually coaches some of the other Chevrolet development drivers, but every time he's jumped in this 28 car this year, he's won. He won at Dover, he won at Iowa. He ran the 24 Hours at Daytona, won that race in the IMSA series in the LMP2 car. He also won the 12 Hours of Sebring. So this kid's got so much talent, and to see him bring it over to the ovals and be as fast as he is, so impressive. This 28 car also last year, Luke Finhouse drove this thing from the back after qualifying, having an issue, and got the lead from Jesse Love. So we know this car is fast. We'll see what he can do with it tonight.
Qualifying earlier today, Phil mentioned that William Sawalich won the pole. He started on the front row in 4 of the 5 events he's competed in this year. He wins the General Tire Pole Award, delivering middle of the afternoon on a very hot and slick Indianapolis Raceway Park. Qualifying out front means so much here, and it will be Sawalich who leads him to the green in a matter of moments. Bottom of your screen, we'll put in our Calypso starting lineup. Now we hear from our pit reporters, Jamie Howe and Heather DeBow, hanging out downstairs. We start things off with Jamie. Good evening, Jamie.
Good evening, Adam. You know, it was awesome. When Greg Van Alst took his helmet off after qualifying, he said, man, this is just fun. He said, you know, there's 2 different types of racers. There are the guys that just ooze pure natural confidence, and then there's guys like me. He said, I wake up every morning with the love of racing being so fierce that I have to get up and I've got to work hard just to continue to come out here and chase that dream. Well, with 3 top 10s this season, he is sitting 2nd in the championship point standings. Now, he does line up 11th tonight, but he said this car is plenty good enough to go out there and get that top 5 that he wants so badly. Heather?
Well, Jamie, qualifying 3rd for today's race is our points leader, Andres Perez, who's 40 points above Greg Van Alst. And if you ask Andres how he feels about short track racing, he'll tell you it's simply not his thing. Those bigger tracks seem to suit his driving style better. But we talked about this race last year, and he said, we just weren't good. In fact, Rev Racing has struggled with their short track program over the last couple years. But today, he said they were on the right path with practice and qualifying. But one thing that's on the forefront of his mind is getting that first career win. I asked him, how are you going to accomplish those goals? He said, with urgency in his voice, I'm going to be aggressive. I need to win. I absolutely have to. Adam?
Heather, you mentioned the fact that Perez comes in leading the championship. When we finish things here tonight, we'll be halfway through 2024. Let's look at those standings. There's Perez at the top. Heather mentioned the fact he's 40 markers in front of Greg Van Alst. You know Van Alst wants to run good here because, as we talk about, he's an Indiana native. LeVar Scott doing some really good things, coming off a 2nd-place run in Berlin just a couple of weeks ago. He's 46 points out. Tony Breidinger, good in practice earlier today, is 4th on the board. And Chris Wright completes the top 5. We are now 10 races away after tonight from finishing out the ARCA Menards Series season, and Perez has his eye on the crown. Round 10 tonight. Let's go trackside now and get the command of fire engines live at Indianapolis Raceway Park.
Say it with me, ladies and gentlemen. Drivers, start your engines!
It's a nice night in central Indiana, so let's play two. Up first, the ARCA Menards series. The green flag comes your way next. And now our Bounty rookie spotlight, highlighting the 34 of Isaac Johnson, 24 from Martinsville, Indiana, another hometown driver, if you will, just about 90 minutes down the road. You know what famous basketball coach is from Martinsville, Indiana?
I do not.
The late John Wooden.
How about that? Yeah, UCLA.
Finished 12th in the ARCA Menards series debut here at IRP 1 season ago.
Teammate to Greg Van Alst.
Yeah. Got 2 starts in 2024. Finished 18th at Daytona, 24th shortly after that at Phoenix. You know, so many people grow up in Indiana. You want to race at the big track, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But anyone who's been involved in the NASCAR ARCA world, you know how special Indianapolis Raceway Park is. So if you're a young driver like Isaac, coming here and competing has got to be very special. He experienced it a year ago and gets to do it again here tonight.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to run the very first Busch Series race here back in 1982, and I can't even begin to tell you how big a deal it was for NASCAR to come to Indianapolis.
You also ran here in '83 when you won the pole, am I right?
Yes, I did.
And had a track record for like 5 years.
Yes, exactly.
All right, let's look at those onboard cameras for tonight, Phil.
Boy, when you come to Indianapolis, and how about the Andretti name? We're going to ride along with Marco Andretti. This is a Sioux Chief onboard. This is a Group 1001 Chevrolet, and he's going to start from the 12th spot.
About the 35, you mentioned the big racetrack. Greg Van Alst making an Xfinity start over there at the other track as well as here at IRP tonight. Got the Sioux Chief Fast Track on board starting in 11th. We also mentioned that points lead he's trying to chip away at.
Well, let's ride along with the guy that does have the points lead. This is Andres Perez. This is the General Tire onboard, the Rev Racing Chevy, and he's going to start from the 3rd spot, looking for that first win here in his ARCA Menards Series career.
Phil, how about the guy with all the track position right now to start the race, the 18 of William Sawalich, starting on the pole, General Tire on board tonight. This young driver has made so much progress. I think back to a season ago when he ran around 3rd here most of the day, had a hard time passing Jesse Love. We saw him progress throughout the year, get so much better with his racecraft, and I want to see if he can come out here tonight and get another win, be 3 in a row.
Well, the one thing he's done such a good job of in the early portion of his career is managing his schedule. Doing it again this weekend, one of the handful of drivers running in ARCA. They'll come back later on another 200 laps in the Craftsman Truck Series. Phil.
Yeah, and that's a lot of laps here on a short track, 400 laps in one evening, even though he'll have a bit of a break in between. So, but he always does well. He had his best career finish in that truck race right here last year, finishing 6th.
This is a rhythm racetrack. You saw all the drivers that are double dipping this weekend, and that's because that rhythm of being able to run high and slide up to the top, it takes some laps to get used to.
Outside, pole sitter William Sawalich. To his left, LeVar Scott. It's 200 laps for the ARCA Menards Series at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Green flag in the air, and off we go.
Nice jump by Sawalich, but LeVar Scott is right there.
That top is where you want to be, but LeVar Scott made it work from the bottom. I'm really surprised by that move already. You see the crossover. That's right. That's right. Didn't yell slide job yet, but we do have the crossover already on lap 1.
Remember, these tires are as good as they're going to get right here. They only have the 1 lap or 2 laps of qualifying on them. Most of these teams only ran a couple laps in qualifying. At the most, they had a 15-minute qualifying session.
7 or 8 of the guys that qualified inside the top 10 only had 2 laps. So a few of them maybe had 3, but most only a couple of laps on their tires.
There's Lawless Allen, the 33, another one of those drivers doing double duty, moving to the inside of Perez in the 2.
Connor Zillis settled into 3rd.
Yeah, and keep in mind, you've got to go 100 laps on these tires, so we might see a little bit of cat and mouse as we see William Sawalich give that lead up. He's going to kind of settle in here and maybe take care of those tires before he tries to hunt down LeVar Scott again.
The 20, Gio Ruggiero out of line, looking to the inside of Lawless Allen. Racing for 5th.
It is visual that this racetrack is actually progressively banked. It's banked the most at the top of the racetrack. We'll see these cars, I think, migrate above that white line in the corners, and then you can see that it's a little bit flatter as you go. When we first came here, Trevor, I thought it was flat at the top and then flatter as we got down. I didn't think there was any banking anywhere.
No, you slide forever in these cars, and it's really easy to overdrive the corner, easy to make a mistake, especially when you're trying to make this pass that Gio's making right now. You feel like you have the position in the center of the corner, and then you go to hit the gas on the exit, and the car just steps out from under you, and it's frustrating. You got to work so many laps to try to complete a pass as we see him working on the back bumper of Lawless Allen here.
You know, you mentioned at the top of the show how William Sawalich battled Jesse Love. They battled for 70 laps last year. William Sawalich trying to get by Jesse Love, Then William actually faded a little bit in the second half, ended up finishing 4th, and that's when Luke Fenhaus came to the front after starting at the back. So we had great racing from start to finish last year.
Well, that's why forever the race fans would love to get to Indianapolis early on a race weekend and come out to IRP and watch the trucks. Now, for many years, it was both the trucks and Xfinity racing here before the Brickyard 400. As we go on board, this is the battle for 10th.
Andretti almost put him 3 wide there in the middle, thought better of it. You see Dean Thompson using that bottom. Right now is the time to do it. If you're going to use that apron or that lower lane, it's right now off the get-go when you've got fresh tires to try to make it happen. But you only get a couple laps, and then your tires really start to build heat and wear, so you see him jump back in line behind Marco and regroup some.
A lot of drivers moving around, feeling it out, and trying to get a handle on where things are early in this race.
Yeah, Dean Thompson is really solid when he steps down to the ARCA series here from the truck series. He's got a couple top 10s, a 3rd and a 7th this year, had a couple of runner-up finishes last year driving to that 55 for Venturini Motorsports.
There were a lot of times that he did double duty, and we were on the backside doing a truck race, and we just anticipated he would shine because he brought so much confidence from ARCA competition over to the truck side.
And he typically did run better when he ran the ARCA race prior to that.
Caution is out. Problems for the 96. That's Jackson McLaren.
Jackson is from Portland, Tennessee, and he was recognized by the city council for making the start here in the ARCA Menards series.
Coming off the corner.
Yeah, just got up a little high there. It looks like car stepped out. You know, you want to move that group up. You want to be one of the first ones to do it. But sometimes that marble buildup around the top, if the track's not ready yet, it's easy to spin out.
He was running 21st when he went around. A lot of anxious onlookers, including Grant Enfinger, who starts front row in the trucks later. ARCA Racing on FS1 is brought to you by Menards. Save big money at Menards. And by Bounty. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper. Here's Heather DeVoe.
And LeVar Scott coming off his career best finish of 2nd at Berlin, and today qualified 2nd. Right now he's confident in that race car. He finished 5th here last year. He told me he believes he can get a better finish here tonight. Jamie Howe?
For Tony Breidinger, she finished 9th here last year, but feels like the car this year is so much better and her confidence is so much higher as a driver that there's definitely a top 5 in it. But she knows from watching the truck race last year that she's going to have to move around. Last year in the ARCA race, she stayed in her own lane. She said that simply is not going to work tonight. So look for her to make some moves. Adam?
Solid start for Breidinger, currently 7th in the running order, front row, LeVar Scott. And William Sawalich. Scott goes outside.
Yeah, got that teammate right behind him now with Andres Perez. Obviously, if LeVar can get that jump, we might see 2 Rev Racing cars taking over the front.
That would make Max Siegel happy, right?
I think
Yes,
so.
it would. Sawalich is going to try to return the favor that LeVar Scott did on the initial start.
Made me nervous when he took that outside lane after he got the lead early from the inside.
Tuck in behind LeVar Scott. Great battle here for about 5th with Lawless Allen, the 33, Gia Rogero in that 20 car.
You know, prior to the caution, Rogero was working the inside lane. Now he's jumped up on the outside of Lawless Allen trying to make it happen.
Lawless is going to grab that 5th spot.
Squeezed his way right in there. Yeah, you know, last year we mentioned it before the break that Williams Sawalich had a really tough time getting by the 20 car. And we had a discussion after this race about packing air, how you use that front bumper with this style car. Obviously, with the next-gen car, we don't see it as much with the diffuser. But in this series, and an Xfinity and truck, you can pack that air, get somebody loose like you're going to see the 28 of Connor Zillage try to do on entry there to the 2 car before he goes to the inside. That's what it takes now. So as we see this 18, he's fighting a tight race car right now, trying to make his way forward. I'll be curious to see how much he uses that and uses what he learned here at IRP a year ago.
And that 20, that was a slide job.
That was there. He cleared him.
Zillage up to 3rd, sliding around Andres Perez. And we got a battle at the front. LeVar Scott leading. He's led them all so far, but here comes William Sawalich. It's only the 2nd time LeVar has led laps in his career. Led 14 laps at Daytona a season ago, but how long can he hang on to P1?
You see him drive to the left rear, try to get him loose on exit, be on the inside here. You almost have to make this pass early in the corner. When you try to turn down an exit and make the pass, it's near impossible to clear him with that lack of forward drive. So I know it's frustrating to the car in front of you, but you have to get them arrow loose here to complete that pass on a car that's as strong as LeVar Scott's out front.
And when you come off a corner below them like he is, you just don't have that whole racetrack to let that car move out towards the outside wall and stay in that throttle. Great battle, though, for the lead.
Mentioned Scott 2nd at Berlin, top 10 in 3 of the last 4.
Battle for 7th on the right side of your screen. Greg Van Alst, remember, he started in the 11th spot now, trying to grab that 7th spot from Tony, and he's got it for a moment. Anyway.
He's got it. Pause. The battle is on again. That's what makes IRP so great. 20 laps in. This is where the race is going to get good. I'm just going to mention it. Lap traffic. As a leader here, you can never run and hide. You're always fighting something, whether it's another driver for position or trying to maneuver those that are slower and off the pace.
Well, speaking of the fight, we've got another one joining the battle here with Connor Zillage has run those top 2 down as they've been racing hard. Lap time slowing down a little bit as they've been battling, so it's allowed them to close up the gap. We know that this 28 car gets better throughout the race every week, much like we saw Jesse Love and Shannon Rush work together last season in their 10-win season, always make those improvements. This 28 car with Shane Huffman on top of the box gets better after that halfway break. So if he's this good now, these guys better watch out.
And guys, remember, this is a 31 car field. We only had 20 cars in this race last year, so there's going to be a lot more traffic, and these guys are going to have a lot more to contend with than they did last year.
Just curious how aggressive Sawalich gets here, because before it's like I can be patient and wait. Now that Zillage is there, it's like, man, I probably got to do something, and it might not matter because he's going to fall back. Look at this, 28 to the inside, going after the 2nd spot.
Remember, this is the first time Zillage has ever been to this racetrack. We know Sawalich ran here last year in this ARCA race as well as the truck race. So first time here for Zillage, but he's a pretty quick study, I think.
Well, you can just see the talent and so much in the form of youth at the front of the field. LeVar Scott is 20 years old. Sawalich, 17. The same for Zillage, who will turn 18 early in the week.
It's going to certainly open up the possibilities for Zillage. And we already know that his schedule is going to really get busy with more truck races, some Xfinity races, as well as some more ARCA races.
Yeah, I want you guys to watch how the intensity picks up with these passes. You see him dive into the yellow line, trying to make that pass clean. But as this race goes on, as the frustration picks up, you will see them packing that air we talked about. But the 18, a little bit out of character right now, struggling to maintain the pace that we saw in practice. Heather, what's going on there with the 18?
Well, the 18 right now, just a little snug, Trevor, but I talked to him specifically about things he learned from last year. One of them was do not run into lap cars because he punched a hole in the front of the nose of the car last race. But he's been working on how to make passes. He said he would prefer to do the top line, but he's going to have to probably work the bottom and get slide jobs. But his spotter, Tony Hirschman, was telling him what weakness LeVar Scott had in front of him as we see the 28 making the pass on the inside now.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, I can definitely tell he's battling that tight race car, just not able to roll the speed through the center there. As we see the 28 really working hard. He's going to start using up that racetrack. Gets free underneath William there, but trying to make quick work of this pass.
He would love to do that slide job, but Sawallich is preventing him from doing that by driving into the corner too hard. And you see how close they get in the center of the corner.
And the other thing to remember here, you got another 170 laps. So part of being successful at any short track is the balance of patience and aggression. You have to take care of your equipment so you're there at the end.
And I think it's more, I think these guys are looking at more as 200 lap races. They know they're going to come in on lap 100. We're going to have a 5-minute break. They can make adjustments. They can put 4 tires on, add fuel. So I think right now they want to see with running how hard they can run these cars and see how long these tires will last. We know we're going to get some fall off on the tires. If they'll last the whole 100 laps, and they'll run hard for 100 laps. If they start falling off at lap 70 or 80, then they know they got to save these tires a little bit to get to the end.
Well, and I go back to the point that Trevor made. When you're confident in the adjustments you make at that halftime break, and you know the second half of the race, that second 100-lap stint that you talk about, Phil, is going to be good to you, you might as well be patient if you're Connor Zilisch and let the race come to you.
Adam, he's 17 years old.
That's right.
I mean, how much patience are you going to have at 17 years old?
I promise he's more mature than I am.
Phil, you mentioned a minute ago that we had 31 cars here, and I'm looking at lap times, and all the way back to 12th place. These guys are running within 2/10 of the leaders. This is one of the most competitive fields I've seen all year.
LeVar Scott leading the way at Indianapolis Raceway Park. It's a great-looking night in the Circle City. Started on the front row. Led the first 39 laps, but things getting tight while we were at break. Connor Zilisch up to second, and I thought for sure he was going to get the race lead, but Scott able to stay in front of him thanks to some lap traffic.
Well, then I thought he might lose second for that same reason, for the lap traffic to Sawallich.
The lap traffic, though, is playing a huge factor. We saw the 28 use a pick against William Sawallich, kept him on the outside as they went by lap traffic. And then just when we came back, they were battling almost 4 wide at IRP. I don't think that's a good recipe to make it to lap 200. 4 wide here.
During the break, they were side by side for the lead. And then LeVar Scott used one of those lap cars for a pick.
This 28 car is so strong. He almost cleared LeVar Scott, was within a foot of being able to pull up on the backstretch. Just the forward drive. When he goes to the throttle, this car continues to drive off the corner and continue to turn. That is hard to get at this racetrack. You mentioned it, Phil, how it gets so flat down the bottom. As soon as those left sides, you see the seams on the racetrack. You have lanes 1, 2, 3, 4. As you cross those seams where they pave, that's exactly where the transition is. It's not necessarily where the white dashed lines are, but where those black seams are. As soon as you drop 2 tires, even just your left sides below it like he's doing right now, instantly it frees up the race car. So you want to get all 4 into the same groove and try to get that forward drive up off.
Side by side for the top spot. Scott actually led that lap, but Zilisch is there as they head off of turn 2.
3 wide again. He said, man, can I just have him one-on-one here?
These lap cars are really doing a pretty good job giving these leaders some room to race side by side.
Scott's doing a great job of managing the top spot. Just all the things you have to balance when you're looking at lap traffic and those around you for position.
We're talking halfway through almost of a tire run and fuel run. We have the top 3 within a half a second of each other. Great race so far.
That last lap time, 1,000th of a second separating the top 2.
Zilisch finally was able to make it work up off the corner.
Zilisch was very patient. Finally, the door opened. We have a new leader, Connor Zilisch. Here is our Reese's Sweet Move of the race. Visit ARCARacing.com on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern to see who is crowned Reese's Sweet Move of the race. This is a nominee.
Yeah, that's when I thought Zilisch was about to lose second to Sawallich after he was side by side with Scott for the lead till they came up on side by side lap cars.
Well, and I would say Sawallich gets the sweet move there. He lifted on exit not to crash himself and not to crash Connor Zilisch. A very mature move, because when you have the position, it's so easy to have the desire to want to stay in the throttle and say, take care of yourself, boys.
Amber Balkin being scored in the 12th position, goes a lap down. So the front runners really putting off an unbelievable pace. We're not even 50 laps in.
See, Sawallich now is going after LeVar Scott. He sees the 28 of Zilisch moving off in the distance. He wants to keep pace if he can. He's going to try his best to get by the 6th of LeVar Scott.
Mentioned off the top, Zilisch undefeated this year in ARCA competition. 2 starts, 2 wins, and he's now led in all 4 of his starts in ARCA competition, including last year at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, throw in an East win at Flat Rock as well.
Now, I always try to keep it to ARCA, and you want to balance the East, but since you did, tonight is a combo race, and boy, what a season it's been. I mean, we're talking about the numbers that Zilisch is putting up when he races in the National Series, but on the East side of things, he's been incredible as Sawalich tries to come through for second.
Yeah, you talk about his 2 wins and 2 starts in the ARCA Series. Well, his average finish in the East is 2.0, so not near as good as it is in the National Series.
Well, we saw things get wild there for a second with all the lap traffic. There's about a 4-second gap up here, 5 seconds to Marco Andretti in 12th place in front of the leaders. So right now's the time for Sawalich to make this move, make the attack on the 6 of LeVar Scott before they catch another group of slower cars that they're going to have to deal with.
Caution out for the second time. Issue in turn 3. Presley Sora into the wall.
Oh,
that's
got a shock off.
Yeah, that's not where the shock is supposed to be. Down on the infield grass. See the left front tire down on Presley's car as well.
Got that window net moving around. Looks like a hard hit here as the left front went down on corner entry possibly.
Presley was 17th when the 12 car got away. Free pass to our rookie Isaac Johnson. He's scored 13th. Zilisch leading Scott, Sawalich, Perez, and Ruggiero. We're live at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Awesome crowd this evening on a perfect night for racing in central Indiana. You're watching the Calypso 200 round 10 for the ARCA Menards series. And racing here at Indianapolis Raceway Park for the 16th time. Let's check in with Heather on our race leader.
And Connor Zilisch just telling his team that the car is really good, and they came back and said, yep, the car is going to be plenty good enough for you. You just need to drive it, beat these other competitors, and be smart. But he does have Derek Nealand up on the spotter stand, and he said he really appreciates how much information he gives them, specifically on what drivers are doing behind him. Just before this caution, he told him that there was no right, rear, left on those 2 behind him. He said they're just absolutely sideways. So he was able to learn that information, but he said, I really appreciate that from him. And he said about Derek Nealand, if he's good enough to be on Kyle Busch's spotter stand, he's good enough for me. Jamie Howe?
Marco Andretti has a big weekend this weekend. It is his first of 5 doubleheaders that he's going to run here between ARCA and trucks coming up this season. And he, you know, out on the grid was like, I'm a little tired, like he had done the practice session and qualifying, and then he got into the truck and did practice and qualifying and then getting ready for the race. And he said, I've got to wrap my head around this double duty, but in terms of track time, it is invaluable for him. And just listening into the radio communication, the team telling him, you're fast, but you don't have to stay on the bottom. You need to remember you can move up a little bit and start to move around. So I think that Marco's starting to get just a little bit more comfortable out there, guys.
It just doesn't feel right to me that Marco is racing in Indianapolis and he's doing it at IRP and not at IMS in an IndyCar. 19 starts in the Indy 500. Second here is a rookie in 2006 when he lost that heartbreaker to Sam Hornish Jr. A lot of talent. It's been fun watching him develop on the stock car side, both in the ARCA Menards series, and we'll see him again later tonight in Craftsman Truck Series competition.
Yeah, people really have no idea what a tough transition it is moving from open wheel stuff to stock car stuff. And obviously going the other direction. Jimmy Johnson found how hard it is to go the other direction as well, but it's a lot more rare for somebody to go from stock cars to Indy cars than it is from Indy cars to stock cars. But I think he's doing a credible job. He had his best finish last time out at Mid-Ohio, and it's always great to talk about an Andretti in Indianapolis.
Well, these 2 tracks couldn't be any more different. You got low grip, high tire wear, sliding around. Then you got Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is send it off in there, Phil.
LeVar Scott led the first 44. Connor Zilisch takes over, has led the last 12, and he'll be the man in charge when we return to the green flag. Just over 40 laps to halfway at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Leader at 28 goes outside lane.
Great jump by Zilish.
I don't know what Shane Huffman does to this 28 car, but the restarts for the last 2 years with this group have been phenomenal. And here we got it again with Connor. 3 wide. It doesn't matter who's driving that 28. They can jump those restarts so good. Not jump them in a bad way. They get a good jump.
Good jump, yeah. Good jump instead of jumping good.
Van Alst, Ruggiero, Breidinger, all mixing it up just outside the top 5.
Jason Wallace trying to grab the 3rd spot or hold on to the 3rd spot over LeVar Scott. You see LeVar Scott pull right down to his door, getting in the corner.
How about that restart for Perez up to 2nd?
Yeah, outside lane just took off there, and these drivers are watching that. Obviously, they'll know where to pick future restarts here.
Looks like Sawalich is going to be able to clear LeVar Scott on the bottom of the racetrack and grab that 3rd spot.
This is one of those tracks where when the spotter says clear, you want to take it right away. You can't leave room for hesitation. Got to get to that outside as quick as you can.
Jamie?
Greg Van Alst is one of the biggest movers in this race, already making up 4 positions, but Brandon Lyons, the spotter, is telling him, don't get greedy out there. It's 1 inch at a time. We've got plenty of racing left to go. He said, your car's plenty fast enough. You just have to stay smart.
Yeah, we talk about doing double duty. Some of these drivers, well, spotters are doing double, sometimes triple duty too, working over at the Brickyard as well as here at IRP.
Van Alst off the corner, sliding that right rear around just a little bit. Open the door for Tony Breidinger. They're racing for 7th on track, down the back straightaway.
I think these two have been battling for about the last 40 laps.
Right.
Yeah, solid run for that Raising Cane's Toyota for Tony Breidinger. How about here's that battle for 2nd now. Sawalich trying to grab 2nd from Perez, right side of your screen.
I almost think it's good for Sawalich to lose a little ground on the restart, only because you can educate yourself of racing through traffic, so you're prepared for that if you're put in that position later in the race. Sawalich gets back to the runner-up spot. Perez falls to 3rd. Scott and Allen complete the top 5.
I like that too, Adam, and it shows you where your car's weak. When somebody gets by you, like right now with Connor Zilish checking out a little bit, you know that you have this break coming up in 35, 34 laps, and so you know what to tell your crew chief now. If you're the guy out front checked out, you kind of want to leave your car alone for
You're
the
a little hesitant. You're a little hesitant to
for,
change anything.
And if you're in 2nd and you see somebody pulling away, you know where they're better than you, and it allows you to go to work on this thing. And you only got 1 shot. It's not like cup races where you come in 4 or 5 times and keep making changes. You get 1 adjustment here to try to win this race.
Gio Ruggiero in the 20, making his 5th career start, racing Lawless Allen in the 33. What about the numbers for Ruggiero? 4 starts, 2 runner-ups, 2 thirds. Pretty good for the 20-year-old.
Yeah, great effort there.
Make it 19.
A lot of success in super late models for Gio.
It's been such a different year for the 20 car. You think about last year with Shannon Rush and Jesse Love. They won 10 races together in this car. This season, he's had different drivers almost every week just coming in, and it's a challenge for a crew chief, for a spotter to get your bearings right with each driver, and for a driver that runs part-time to jump in the seat.
Yeah, and a couple of races ago, they lost Shannon Rush. Shannon Rush left the team. Kevin Reed Jr. now calling the shots for this 20 car. Adam, we talked about the East Series points. Connor Zilish averaging 2.0 in the 5 races that he's run so far this year, with a 17-point lead over Sawalich. Gio right there in 3rd, 26 behind.
Good battle with some great young drivers. 2 17-year-olds and a 19-year-old, top 3 in the East standings.
You can already tell Connor's figuring this place out, really using that diamond now. You see him super high, center of the corner, points that thing straight, drives right off. Looks good.
He's now led 25 of our 68 laps. Zilla showing the way in front of Sawalich, Perez, Scott, and Lawless Allen. It's not often you talk about a race car driver being undefeated, but that's the case for Connor Zilish. 2024 in the ARCA Menards series. It all started taming the monster at Dover.
Yeah, and he came right back next time out at Iowa and goes to victory lane once again over Sawalich. 2 for 2, and he started out the year, and late January with a win in a 24-hour race, the youngest winner ever in the 24 hours of Daytona.
You talk about his upbringing and what it requires to be good in NASCAR these days. You know, growing up for us, Phil, it was always ovals. We hardly touched a road course until maybe we got to ARCA or the K&N series back then. This guy, you know, since 5 years old has been running both types of racing, road course and ovals. And typically we see, you know, think about Shane Van Gisbergen, comes over great on road courses, but seems to struggle right now a little bit on ovals. It's taking some time to get used to it. You get a young guy like this that can do so well on both. That's the reason Trackhouse Racing scooped him up right away, got him on a development deal, because they see the future for this and the potential that will be at the Cup schedule.
I can't wait to see him when he turns 18 just in a few days, how the schedule is going to open up for him to run some bigger racetracks, because I really don't see that being much of an issue for him, as well as he adapts to everything he's done.
Yeah, going to run that Watkins Glen race for Junior Motorsports coming up. A few races on the schedule for him there in Xfinity. Be fun to watch.
And now a Reese's Sweet move of the race. Teammates splitting a lap car. Watch this. Perez in the 2, Scott in the 6. Going either side of Moeller into turn 1.
Big slide.
Oh! Fortunately, Cody Diddison realized that that the 6 car was in the corner really hard.
Visit ARCARacing.com on Monday at 3 Eastern to see who is crowned the Reese's Sweet move of the race. Hey, the 6 and 2 been great. I mean, came out, took care of business in practice and qualifying, and spent the majority of the night inside the top 5. LeVar Scott qualifying front row, led 44 laps. Perez, the point leader, hanging right there.
Both of these drivers still looking for that first win in the series, and I know that's going to be some big bragging rights in the shop if one of them can get it done, but also for Andres Perez's points lead. I mean, he wants to win this championship, and so a win would be a big step in the right direction of getting that done.
Well, if they can go up and knock off one of those drivers in front of them, I mean, we've read the resume for Zilish and Sawalich. If you beat them on a track like this, that'll create a ton of momentum, build some confidence.
Yeah, without a doubt. We talk about Andres Perez. We talked about the fact that maybe the short tracks, he doesn't feel like they're his cup of tea. Well, he should have won the race at Michigan last year. He actually dominated that race, lost an engine that kept him from going to victory lane. So he knows how to get it done. He's won in NASCAR Mexico Series. He won last year as well as this year, and it's just a matter of time before he gets that first one.
Well, and you might say, how's he leading the points if he hasn't won a race? But this year, his worst finish is 12th, which came at Daytona. As we know, anything can happen at Daytona. After that, worst finish of 8th place, including 3 top 5s recently. So, you know, he's just consistent. Doesn't seem to have those days where he makes mistakes and finishes worse in the car. That's what you want a young driver to do. It says, hey, if this is a 3rd place car, finish 3rd with it. Don't try to win and crash out or do something like that. So he's doing his job really well.
How about this 3-way battle right here, Adam? 3-way battle for position. Andretti's been on the move. He got by Dean Thompson, trying to get by the 35 of Greg Van Alst. And Dean Thompson said, well, while you're doing that, I may try to get you both.
14 laps to halfway, and they're racing hard inside the top 10. In lap traffic all around him. Andretti jumps in front of Van Alst.
Move Marco up to the 8th spot.
Thompson comes through as well. He's now 9th. Greg Van Alst 2nd in points from Anderson, Indiana. Falls back to 10th in the running order.
These guys better get serious and get in line here, because the leader's coming. They're only about 4 seconds ahead of our leader, maybe 5 seconds ahead of our leader with 13 laps to go.
12 cars on the lead lap. Isaac Johnson, who got the free pass on that last caution, has fallen a lap down again. He's 13th. Next up for race leader Connor Zilish will be 12th place Christian Rose, trying to put him a lap down.
Yeah, there he is, right on the rear bumper of Christian Rose. The 32 car, almost heaven, West Virginia. Christian, solid top 10 competitor usually. Looks like he's going to go a lap down, and he would hope that Connor Zilish will not get another lead lap card, possibly get the free pass. But Zilish is on the move now with just outside of 10 laps to go in this first break, before the first break.
At a Mountaineer football game, almost heaven, West Virginia. you want to give us a little more over there?
Go blue is all I can say.
I understand. And
Look at what kind of lead these two have been able to pull away. We talked about the top 3 or 4 being within a half second that first run, and now Sawalich and Zilich just picked up the pace as the tires have fallen off. Almost a 10-second gap now back to LeVar Scott. Might show you how hard he went early on, but hey, you want to learn that timing. Now he knows that was the limit for what I can do over the course of 100 laps. I know how hard I can push, and sometimes that's a good thing to have in the notebook going into the second half here.
Zilich tried to negotiate this traffic. Michael Maples, the 99, he's going to get by on the inside. Is that D.L. Wilson? He's going to get by on the outside.
That car is so versatile, Phil. He can move around. He can pass people on the top, the bottom. That's what you got to have when there's this many lap cars to work through.
You know, we talk about the fact that Zilich doesn't run with these guys full time, not around all the time. But then you get to some of that lap traffic. These are competitors that he's really unfamiliar with. How does that change the way you approach? Because you don't know who to trust and maybe who not to trust in these tight situations.
No, that's where you really lean on your spotter. And he talked about Derek Nealon and, you know, hey, I need to know what to expect when I'm trying to get to the bottom of Greg Van Alst. Is he going to race me like crazy right here? Is he going to, you know, maybe let me go? And I can promise you right now, though, nobody's going to let him go. We're coming up to 7 laps until that break. Close to that, and so these guys want to stay on the lead lap. You see Greg Van Alst just sideways trying to stay on the lead lap there.
He goes a lap down, so only 10 cars on the lead lap as we approach the middle portion of this race. Sometime right around lap 100 is when we'll get that caution and have our midway break.
Well, I'm pretty sure he's going to catch up at least to the back bumper of Dean Thompson here over these next few laps. And then the question becomes who can fight for that free pass position. So for Greg Van Alst right now, he's saying, how can I stay as close as I can to that 28? And if he does lap Chris Wright, how can I pass Chris Wright to be in that free pass position?
Yeah, and that's Chris Wright right now, the 15 car in front of Connor Zilich, right in front of him. Here's the battle for 6. Lawless Allen, the 33 car, has 6. Tony Branger in the 25, in 7th.
I don't know what the average running position is for Breidinger tonight, but I feel like every time I look at the scoring pylon, she's in the 7th spot. You know what I mean? Just all night long.
Glued to the back bumper of Lawless Allen, so they're just stuck. I haven't seen her move up the track a lot, though. That 25 car has been running the lower half of the track the whole time. So during this break, I'm sure there's some dialogue of, hey, how, not just the car, but how can I work on what I'm doing? And, you know, hopefully her spotter and crew chief will try to coach her up a little bit to maybe run a little bit of higher line like we see the leaders doing, where they square off the exit of the corner. I think that can maybe help this car out some.
Yeah, there's some speed definitely in that higher groove. You see her now, she's still inside of that white line, the top white line, and we'll see cars get all 4 tires up above that white line at times, and there's some grip up there.
To pay off what I was talking about, average running position for Breidinger, 7.6. So
you were right on the money. Right on the money.
Maybe a little bit more time in 8th than 7th, but the average tonight, 7.6 for Tony Breidinger.
You may not do much ARCA racing at all, but you've watched some races, right?
Every once in a while.
Getting close now, just 3 laps to go till more than likely we'll see our break right at lap 100.
Connor Zilich led the most laps, 53 out front, 44 for LeVar Scott, the only 2 that have led the way here tonight.
I think Dean Thompson, Trevor, is going to be able to stay on the lead lap. He's under just a couple seconds ahead right now of Connor Zilich with just a couple laps to go.
That's a big deal. Come in, work on the car. You never know what you can do here in the last 100. Dean Thompson, obviously a lot of experience running both series, as we mentioned earlier, the Truck Series and ARCA here at IRP tonight.
Well, if you stay in the game at a short track, things can get physical late, which opens the door for success if you're on the positive side of some of the issues.
Yeah, it just takes one chaotic restart here, and you're right there.
Well, if you had said to us this afternoon, even before the cars hit the track, who are the favorites, we would have said Connor Zilich and William Sawalich. And they are 1-2.
We did say that, actually.
Yeah, we said it. But
as a matter of fact, we did say that.
And here we are halfway home, and those are the 2 out front. We'll take a break and be right back to Indianapolis Raceway Park. Welcome back to Indianapolis Raceway Park. It's the ARCA Menards series. You're watching the Calypso 200. We're at the halfway break. Connor Zilich leads William Sawalich, LeVar Scott, Perez, and Ruggiero complete the top 5. Let's go down to pit road and hear from Jamie Howe.
For Tony Breidinger, this number 25 machine, she sits fourth in the standings, and that's purely off of consistency. Her last three races have been an 8th, a 7th, and a 6th. She said, my goal tonight is to get into that top 5, but in order to do it, she's going to have to be able to use the whole racetrack, which through these first 100 laps, she hasn't been able to do. She said it's just sitting on that left rear too much. She can't seem to get it off the corner, so the team making some adjustments for her here. Heather?
And for our leader, Connor Zilic, who's going for his 3rd win in his 3rd start here in the National Series with the ARCA Menards Series. He said his car right now is just a little bit free late center, but he needs some right rear stability, but a very minor adjustment he asked for. But he also told the team at the end of that run, he was not going 100%. Jamie Howe.
Dean Thompson in that number 55. He stayed right inside of the top 10. He fell outside to the top 15 for just a little bit there. But for Dean Thompson, you can see that there's a little bit of an issue here on pit lane, and the team, there's no rush, there's no hurry, and that was really the message that their crew chief, Kevin Eagle, gave them was there's no need to rush through anything. We've got plenty of time. We're going to get all of the work done that we need to get done. And, you know, fortunately for them, they are going to have a couple of extra moments, but they're going to have some work to do. Heather?
And William Swallow, he's going for 3 wins in a row. He won at Mid-Ohio and Berlin. And right now he's running in that 2nd position, but he told the team he doesn't need much here. He has really good turn. His crew chief, Matt Ross, asked him, do you need drive late in the run? And the answer was yes. So the team going to work on adjustments for the 18 here, guys.
Yeah, I noticed Jason Radcliffe out there with this 18 car. Jason's so much experience, so many wins in the Xfinity Series, Cup crew chief as well, kind of looking over this program and trying to help.
Well, I noticed I missed my mute button when I was watching that car jacked up on pit road.
I was thoroughly entertained.
I was watching him climb under there without a jack stand. I'm like, come on, guys. So
shock change on the 18 car. You see the old shock coming off.
What will that mean for the second half of the race? We'll have it for you when we return on FS1.
Indianapolis Raceway Park is where the action is.
Everybody get ready. Come on, let's go. Enjoy the show.
Trouble hard hit into the outside wall.
Wow, look at this. They go 4 wide.
Enjoy the show.
Short track racing, hot-tempered. There's contact there.
You always get your money's worth when you come to Indianapolis Raceway Park. Such a wonderful venue and a very entertaining first half of this race for the ARCA Menards Series. It's the Calypso 200 with Trevor Bayne, Phil Parsons. I'm Adam Alexander. Race leader Connor Zilic led 58 laps in that opening stint of the event.
Yeah, you remember this is a relatively new team. This team was just formed last year by Shane Huffman. Mark and Jerry Webb are the owners, and what an amazing job they've been able to do here with this team. 3 wins already this year in the National Series. The 2 that we've talked about for Connor Zilic, and Connor Mozak going to victory lane in Kansas for his 2nd consecutive Kansas win with 2 different teams. But it's amazing what they've been able to do.
And now our Sioux Chief Fast Track. The featured driver, Greg Van Alst.
He's not going very fast right now.
No. He'll be the first car 1 lap down when we return to the green flag. 42 years old from nearby Anderson, Indiana. How great was it last year when he won at Daytona?
One of the most emotional wins that I've seen in a long, long time. And I never get tired of seeing that video of him, saying that, short track guys aren't supposed to be able to do this at Daytona. It was so cool.
2nd in points, as we've talked about, coming into tonight's race, and he'll be racing tomorrow afternoon at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the Xfinity Series.
Something's
driving
dragging
Bobby Dotter.
What is that dragging underneath that car?
I think it's just hooked to the bumper there with that piece of fiberglass. Jamie, what's going on with that 35?
Well, there was some contact early on in the race, and during that pit stop, his team was trying to execute some changes, and they ultimately just ran out of time before they had to go to get back in line, and that's the right rear brace that's dangling. So a lot of frustration down here on pit lane.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be much of an issue. And you see the part of the right rear quarter panel is gone, and I think that's the colored portion of that piece that's dragging behind that car. I don't think the ARCA officials will deem that necessary to bring him in.
Probably not an issue for him, but whoever's running behind him, it might be an issue when that thing lets loose there.
He needs a quick caution in the second half of the race, get the free pass, get back on the lead lap. Started outside the top 10, drove up and had a good car, and then it really faded late there in the first half of the race. You know, 2 weeks ago, Bubba Wallace was fined $50 grand for door slamming Alex Bowman after the race. He got some advice from our NASCAR on Fox colleague.
I will say I got my media training from Kevin Harvick. He told me to show up with a smile on my face and accept it. So here's my smile.
I love the Bubba Wallace away from the racetrack and the type of person that he is, because he's a great person. He has great personality. He's fun. And I hope that he just doesn't worry about trying to live up to what everybody else thinks he should be. Just go be you. Do you, man.
That's what I'm always saying to you, Phil. Just be you.
I try.
Wherever you get your podcast, download and check out Happy Hour. Always a lot of fun. Mamba Smith, a part of the podcast. He's going to be with us with truck coverage coming your way 8:30 Eastern time tonight on FS1.
Yeah, Caitlin Vincey as well.
Well, I would just be me, but I might not hit my mute button again.
Big restart here. We'll see what kind of changes these teams made. We obviously saw at least a left rear shot change down the 18 of Sawalich. Is that going to be what he needs to go up there and run with that 28 of Zilish?
That's a big change. That's not something we would normally ever see in live pit stop format. So this provides unique opportunities to make some big swings to these cars.
And the reason being, we don't, you know, it's a smaller budget organization and series, and we don't need high dollar pit crews making 13-second pit stops. So that's why the ARCA officials have decided to do breaks like this, so they don't have to have the high dollar pit crews.
Let's go to Heather.
And in talking with Gio Ruggiero before this race, I asked him what the plan would be, and he said, you know what, I'm going to be patient this race. I'm going to take the first 100 laps to fill out my car and let them know what changes I need in order to win later, which is exactly what he did. He told the team he was just a little bit too tight, so they freed him up, but his other goal was to not lose track position and not to fight too hard for the lead. He started this race in 5th, and he's currently running in the 5th position.
Yeah, he'll restart inside of row 3 for the second half of the race. And we're going to add another lap before we go green in half number 2.
Yeah, the lineup may not be exactly what it was. And remember, these teams will retain the same exact position as they came on the pit road at the break.
You would think that's easy, but for these competitors, I mean, you want to wrestle over every position, right?
If you get by with another row, I'm all for it. You know, it's not working though.
Jamie?
It's the end of the race that Christian Rose here in that number 32 is looking forward to. He finished 10th last year, and said he really learned how to conserve. He said, I need to run smooth, and that's what's going to be the key for tonight. He did make a pit stop early on before that halfway mark to make some adjustment changes, but Ryan London, his crew chief, said we just went too far in the wrong direction. They had to bring him back at this pit stop, so he's hoping to be able to make up some ground here in the second half of this race.
He's going to be in a big battle with that 35 of Greg Van Alst for the free pass. That's assuming we get another caution flag.
Yeah, I was saying Van Alst rooting for an early caution in half number 2. There's a couple of pieces to that equation. One, get the early caution and make sure you are in fact the first car one lap down. Some good drivers in that category right now.
His debris could easily be the reason for that first caution.
Gonna go green this time. Outside Zilish, inside Sawalich.
Find out who made the best adjustments.
And getting control of this race for those drivers on the front row will be huge.
A closer restart there for Sawalich. He's going to try to drive it down into turn 1. Not going to be able to clear yet. Squeeze him up.
Remember, brand new tires, Trevor. You talked about how if you're going to make a move on the inside, the time to do it is on these fresh tires.
Here's Sawalich sliding up in front of Zilish. 18 to the point.
Turn back under, try the crossover, carry that same momentum down in. Because he's going to have to clear him before the first half of the corner here if he can drive in deep enough.
See how hard Sawalich drove in that corner to keep him from doing that.
Yeah, another thing you can do is shallow up that entry for either driver. The inside guy's going to shallow it up a lot, try to drive in straight, but you see Sawalich take that lane away there. Great job early on, and we saw this 28 come to life about 15, 20 laps into the race. So he's going to pace William here, see if he can wear his tires out a little bit more. And go get him on the long run.
How about teammates for third? Really good battle there between the 6 and the 2. That's Perez and Scott.
Yeah, Perez has it in that 2-car. LeVar Scott's trying to grab that third spot back.
Wallace Allen to 5th on a restart. Ruggiero right behind him. And I know you'll find this hard to believe, but as we get going in the second half of the race, Tony Breidinger is in fact 7th.
That average is getting closer to 7th now.
It is.
With every lap she runs.
Well, these drivers learned a lot about pacing. That first 100 laps, we saw LeVar Scott take off really fast, fell off that last 10 or 15 laps of a run. These two drivers out front now, we're chasing him down, and it seemed like they saved their step a little bit more. Maybe they ended that run and said, hey, I had more tire left than what I used. My lap times didn't fall off that hard, and so I can go much harder at the front side of this run.
A couple teammates right here, the 20 of Ruggiero and 25 of Breidinger, trying to do something with that 33 of Wallace Allen. Solid run for Wallace Allen. We're used to seeing those Venturini cars of Ruggiero and Breidinger running well, but nice job by that Josh Rayone team. And the only reason they're here really is to get more experience for that truck race later on tonight. Really doing a nice job.
Venturini Motorsports, the winner of this race the last 5 times. Looking at these two drivers right now, Gio and Breidinger, to move their way up through the field to see if they can't contend late in this race.
Top 2 just ran their fastest lap of the race. Got those tires and putting them to good use here as we're inside of 90 laps to go. And now another Reese's Sweet move of the race.
That's Chris Wright, the 15. He's going to go underneath the 34 of Isaac Johnson to try to get by a couple lap cars. 3 wide, getting in the corner, and he clears them by the time he gets to turn 3.
Visit ARCARacing.com on Monday, 3 Eastern, to see who is crowned Reese's Sweet move of the race. Breidinger racing Ruggiero for 6th. She's there as they worked their way to the start-finish line and into turn 1.
Just a solid outing for Tony Breidinger. We saw her have some really good runs last year, some really good top 5s, and trying to go after top 5 here.
And for Tony, one of the things they're telling her on the radio, her spotter, Britt Anderson, is saying, don't be too aggressive here as you're trying to make some moves. They said there's a lot of racing left, and you're going to burn up that right rear tire. He said you need to be smooth, but continue to take these new lines that you're trying, but don't overshoot it.
Just north of 80 laps to go here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. It's the ARCA Menards Series. William Sawalich leading Connor Zilisch, Perez, and Scott. William Sawalich leading. He's had quite a year, Phil.
He sure has. Starts off the year, his first race, with a big win in Phoenix.
A sign of things to come.
In Ohio, he's able to hold off the 55 of Brent Cruz, a road course racer. Road course win there on the books now for William Sawalich.
Got win number 2, and then he went back-to-back. Said, I'd like to hit the trifecta. Dominated at Berlin. Started on the pole, led 195 of 200 laps, and picking up his 3rd win of the campaign.
3 in a row.
How about 3 in a row?
Caution flag is out.
Technically, we have 2 guys going for 3 in a row. I know that it's not the last 3, but Connor Zilisch, he said, I'm on that 3 in a row too.
Back on Monopoly in the 85. This is a brand new team out of Florida. Their debut. She was doing a solid job running up around the 20th spot, but a lot of damage. You see the right rear tire leaned in, a lot of damage to the front of that car as well.
Showing Christian Rose first car lap down, so we'll confirm with officials, but it looks like right now he'll be the one that gets the free pass.
Yeah, it wasn't that many laps ago that he was able to get by Greg Van Alst to get in that position.
Yep.
And it's going to work out for him.
He's running 11, so that would put 11 cars on the lead lap, and confirmation Rose gets it. Lap leaders tonight. LeVar Scott started on the front row, led the first 44. Zilisch took over, led 63, leading at the halfway point. Sawalich has led the last 20 as we're under caution.
Got loose, maybe a little overcorrection there on exit. Right here you see it just step out, wheels turn to the right, and it hooks.
Yeah.
Bad feeling there.
Yeah, what an amazing job. It looked like Jackson McLaren to avoid her.
It's Perez.
Right behind. Big moment.
How about that miss right there by McLaren? Tough break, pretty significant contact for Becca's car.
Third caution for an incident tonight.
That's one of those where you want to save it. You know, it steps out on one of those seams, you catch it to the right. But sometimes you're better just to spin that thing to the bottom and take your wounds and hit the reset button. Obviously, she was trying to drive through it and just snap back on her.
Yeah, all the rookie meetings back in the day, they'd said if you get sideways or spinning, just lock that thing to the left and and get her stopped.
They'll be inside of 70 laps to go when we return to the green flag. William Sawalich leads the way at Indianapolis Raceway Park. ARCA Racing on FS1 is brought to you by Reese's. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Reese's, not sorry. And by General Tire. General Tire delivers the freedom to explore. Just under 70 laps to go at Indianapolis Raceway Park for the ARCA Menards series, under caution for the third time tonight. And Jamie, you had a visitor on pit road.
Yeah, so we've been under caution. Dean Thompson went ahead and brought the car down to his crew chief, Kevin Eagle, and all the guys, and he was just too tight. He said after that pit stop, the adjustments that they made, it just went too far, and so they went ahead and took the opportunity to free him up just a little bit. He's sitting in 11th right now. He really wants to be inside of the top 10, but he said through practice and qualifying, they were able to move in the right direction, so he's hoping that this is going to be a further move on that. Heather?
And Connor Zilic was asking his spotter, Derek Nealon, about the 18 and what he's doing, and Derek came back to him and said, we have the car to win, but we need to keep racing ourselves. I cannot stress that enough. But the 18 is working harder than you. And then listening in on the 18, he has lost rear grip on the right rear as it went on. So there is some tire concern with that right rear. The team telling him now to turn on the fan. Guys, what would be the advantage to him there to turn on the fan to help him out?
Well, he's going to try to turn on that fan to cool a certain tire to try to get the balance right in that car. But you hear him say, hey, he's working harder than you. Normally that would sound like a really bad thing to hear. But from a driver's perspective, if somebody's working harder than you, they're working those tires over. They're hustling a race car because they're trying to make speed. But that's not always a good thing. Sometimes being smooth makes speed, makes those tires last. Man, I love seeing Jason Ratcliffe up on that box. I've had the opportunity to work with him the last 2 seasons. No better crew chief out there, in my opinion. That guy's a stud. Yeah,
that was Matt Ross, the crew chief for Williams Wallace, sitting next to Jason Ratcliffe. So a lot of brain power up on that pit box.
Tremendous knowledge and experience. Back to Derek Nealon on the spotter stand. One of the most competitive people I know. So I'm not surprised he's challenging his driver. Sawalich, Zilic, front row. Restart coming just north of 65 laps remaining at IRP.
What a great restart there.
Gotta make sure there's no
big launch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can't beat that leader back to the line. Actually, you know, you saw the 18 there. Get that good jump. So as the second place car for Connor Zilic, you don't want to jump too soon and end up beating him. So sometimes it makes you hesitate.
And him falling back opens the door for LeVar Scott, who's up to second now in the running order. Zilic third, Perez fourth, Ruggiero up to fifth.
Wallace Allen all over the back of the 20 of Ruggiero. There's Tony Branger. Where's Tony running, Adam?
She's seventh.
She's seventh.
Marco Andretti there in eighth.
Chris Wright driving to the inside of Marco in that 15 car. Great battles up here inside the top 10. Zilic back after the second spot on LeVar Scott, not able to clear him, getting in the corner.
This reminds me so much of what we saw from these two early in the race when Scott had the lead and Zilic was trying to take it away from him.
That's a
28
slide.
Up to second.
That was a slide job there. He turned it hard down left, getting in the corner.
When you do that, Bill, you are committed to the move no matter what. Even if he gets back to the right rear, you are fully sending that thing.
Zilic does such a good job of, after he slides him, of being able to get back to the gas and then pull away.
There's a little bit of damage on that right front of the 28 of Zilla. She's got into somebody. It has that fender pushed in a little bit inside of the front of the tire. That'll be a little downforce, probably a little less front downforce that he'll have.
Don't look now, Adam, but Tony Breidinger up to 6. She's improving that average running position pretty quick.
Last check, the average was at 7.4.
Still a great run for her, though. Running up with some really good cars, doing a nice job. Good battle back here. That's Zachary Tinkle, the 11. He's in the top 5 in the E-Series points. We talk about this being a combination race. Pays points for both series. Zachary's 4th in points.
15th. They scored 2 laps down in the race right now is Tinkle.
Andrew Patterson, the 95. And Jackson McLaren, the 96, teammates. Obviously, those cars look very similar. And racing hard together.
Marco Andretti and Chris Wright able to be on the lead lap this whole race so far. They're going to keep fighting to move forward. See both those cars inside the top 9 right now.
Looking forward to watching Andretti later tonight when we bring you the Craftsman Truck Series here on FS1.
There's a 55 right side of your screen. Dean Thompson. We'll see if the changes that Kevin Eagle made, if it will make that car any better.
And the Venturini cars, as we mentioned earlier, are typically pretty dominant at this racetrack, and they don't seem to have the speed as a group that we're used to seeing. I know 2 of those cars are inside the top 6, but for Dean Thompson, a regular in our truck series, you know, normally when he steps into these cars at an ARCA event, he runs top 5 pretty much all day. So kind of surprising to see him battling around that 10th position all day.
It speaks, though, to how difficult this racetrack is. And the other thing I would say is the changes that it can go through this time of the day. You practice in the heat of the day, and you can start to see the shadows creep in. And I mentioned off the top, we're going to hit a low tonight in the Indianapolis area of right around 68, 70 degrees. And so it is going to cool down, and all of that can have an impact on how these cars react.
Yeah, it'll dramatically change the balance. And we saw that in trucks qualifying earlier. You get some cloud coverage late in the qualifying session, and times picked up pretty quickly. So the crew chiefs will be watching for that. And obviously, they've got what they've got now, though. No changes are going to be made from this point on. So I don't care what you tell me as a driver. If I'm a 10 loose, he still says, hey, you're a 10 loose, but you got to drive it, buddy.
That's what I love, though, about the ARCA Menards series, is you've got a lot of young drivers that have to learn how to handle every situation. And when you're forced to do it over the long haul, that's when you educate yourself on taking care of equipment and adjusting on the fly.
I'll tell you, Adam, racing at tracks like Myrtle Beach and Hickory Motor Speedway and similar cars, back then it was the Pro Cup Series, now you have this ARCA Series, that taught me how to drive a car on a long run. When you had to go 150, 180 laps on tires, man, you wore those things out. And so when we would show up to tracks like Bristol, where you had so many laps, or Martinsville, it really showed me how to manage those races. Talked to Eric Jones earlier this week, and you know, he's a driver I work with in the Cup Series. He said, when I go race late models, like, people are worn out after 100 laps, but these drivers are getting exposure to these long runs early in their career, like you mentioned.
Just over 50 to go, Jamie.
We're going to talk about a pair of teammates that are out there right now, Adam. That's Greg Van Alsten, the number 34, and then his teammate Isaac Johnson, who's going to be in for the next 3 races in the number 34 car. Or sorry, the 35 and the 34, sorry about that. Anyway, they're teammates, and what they're doing with this program with Greg Van Alsten Motorsports is just trying to build on something for the future. You talk about those young drivers and getting all of that experience. Well, Greg Van Alsten said he needs a program that's sustainable, but something that's self-sustainable. He's got a 12-year-old son, Ryder, that's getting his feet wet right now in late model racing, and he said he's one of those kids that has that raw talent, and he wants a place for him to be able to go, and being able to pull out a second car that drivers can get into and learn from. That's the future of this program.
Bill, you know what that's like. You've got a son that races.
Yeah, you know, sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it's very rewarding when they do well, and it almost seems like, you know, when they do well, that you feel better than if you did it yourself. So it's a tough dynamic, and that's one thing about our sport. It's so family driven. We have so many sons that will follow their fathers in the sport. So many brothers that follow their brothers, just like I followed my brother Benny. Benny was 16 years older than me, so he had already established a career by the time I could even remember what was going on, and that's something I always wanted to try to emulate, is what Benny had done.
As a dad, how much do you try to coach your son? Now he's running some truck races and doing things. What kind of dad are you? We've seen the ones in fights on pit road. Are we going to see you out there?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I'll be in the fight on pit road. But I'm telling you, he's really gone beyond what I can coach. I mean, I coached him some when he started racing legend cars and Bandolero cars and maybe some late models. But now it's so sophisticated. He's fortunate enough that he races for Chevrolet and he gets simulator time. So he works with some really, really good people. And his race team as well, Henderson Motorsports with Chris Carey, who's been around a long time. So I'm more just a cheerleading dad now than I am a teaching dad.
You know, sometimes it is a dad and an older brother, but you have to have a mentor in racing. And watching some of these drivers at the front, and I think about some of the cup drivers that help out on a weekly basis, maybe a teammate. Whatever the situation is, you have to have guidance and leadership. Good battle here for 7th. Lawless Allen, and we go on board Marco Andretti running 8th.
Chris Wright, the 15th, right behind him. Good three-way battle right here for position. Marco's going to try to get it done on the bottom of the racetrack. You can see by the roof of the car how much flatter it is down on the bottom. Sometimes it can be really challenging to try to make these passes work and stay in that throttle. You see how much flatter it is where Marco is. Just about able to pull up beside the 33 of Lawless Allen.
Chris Wright waiting in the wings for these two to collide, and he can drive right by.
Did you say collide?
It's quite possible. We are inside of 50 to go to short track, are we not?
Yeah, the give and take just turns into all take.
That's right.
Once we get inside of 50 to go.
I've been really impressed tonight, though. Speaking it out to this point, we've had a lot of passes for the lead, and really minor or no contact at all so far. So great job by these drivers tonight.
So far.
So far. I didn't say
yet.
so far. I threw that in there.
The other thought now, as we get into a long run, William Sawalich starts to encounter that lap traffic. That's going to be a huge factor before the night is over, no doubt. Andretti diving inside again. Can he slide up in front of Lawless Allen? Not yet.
He's getting close.
Lawless has been so good at playing defense on the top. It's almost like when you watch Ross Chastain with the aero blocking in the Cup Series. Here, it's all about get to the top lane. It makes it so hard on them to pass, but Marco got by right there off of turn 4.
Nice job by Marco to grab that 7th spot.
Top 5 with just over 40 to go. Sawalich, Zilish, Scott, Perez, Ruggiero. Happy you're with us on a Friday night at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Jackson McLaren spins from 18th, brings out our 4th caution of the night with just over 30 laps remaining in the Calypso 200.
Be a break for Greg Van Alst. He will get a free pass, but he went a 2nd lap down. That will just put him now 1 lap down. We'll still have 11 cars on the lead lap, but an opportunity for Zilish to have another restart and try to go after that 18 of Sawalich. You know, one thing we haven't talked about is the fact that remember we saw them change a left rear shock on that 18 car. Obviously, I think it must have worked because that car has been a lot faster in the 2nd half of the race.
Yeah, left rears are so sensitive on tracks like this with no banking. We've talked about that. It can either let that thing droop pretty quick into the corner, free the car up, or it can hold it down and try to help the balance. So with him being as tight as he was earlier, they made that change, and it's brought this car to life. I did notice, though, right at the end of that run, a couple laps, Zilish was running faster lap times by a couple tenths, so he's still in the fight.
Riding with Marco Andretti.
Oh.
See McLaren already around. Ooh, and Tony Branger jumped on the brakes, locked the brakes up, and got into the outside wall.
Running 6th position. We've talked all night about how well she's been running. That's going to be a lot of damage to that right front of that car, though. I don't know that she'll have the same performance she had before.
You saw what happened when you locked the brakes up. That car just went straight.
So easy to do. Right in the moment, somebody spins out right in front of you. jump on the brakes.
Yeah, her initial reaction is to jump on the brakes.
You know, we talk about William Sawalich, Connor Zilish here in the closing laps. With a caution this late, we're going to restart inside of 30 laps to go. Lap traffic shouldn't be near as big a factor as it was going to be if we had continued under the green flag. So the good news for Sawalich is if he can jump back out front, he might not have to manage the lap traffic. The bad news is we
He's
get
got
a
to restart
caution when he had an advantage of 1.5 seconds, and now he gets that restart.
We're going to ride along with Tony.
Oh, almost gets the teammate there.
Looked like maybe she got word late that had happened in front of her.
It's almost like she was making a move to go around Ruggiero, didn't know the caution was out, backed out, and then had nowhere to go.
For Tony Breidinger, her spotter, Britt Anderson, did apologize. He said, that one was my fault. That wasn't yours. I didn't get the word to you soon enough. So you guys were spot on there. But they checked with her. They asked how the wheel was. She said it's good enough. And she feels like she's still got a car that they can race with. They're ready on pit lane in case they do need to come down for any repairs. But for the time being, it looks like she's going to be able to stay out.
Yeah, that right front looks bad, though. Looks like it's really bent in. So she's been a control arm or something. I'd be surprised that the toe isn't off as well. Obviously left side okay, but that right front is a bit askew, I think.
Yeah, and these composite bodies don't show the damage like our old metal body fenders did. You'd be able to tell how pushed in it was. It doesn't rebound, but these do. She was on that second view that we saw going a little bit slower than I thought she was. On that first one, she looked like she was still full speed when she hit, but maybe for her it's still good enough to hang on, you know, here top 10 finish. And but what a strong day so far.
You see it's definitely bent in at the top, several degrees more than it should be.
I noticed the 20 car earlier, Phil. You talk about that camber there in the right front. It looks broke. I mean, it looks like it's leaned in, but I saw the 20 earlier had quite a bit of camber. You're going to see as he pulls by here, a lot of camber in that car as well. So
yeah, it did not look as bad as I thought after looking at the 20 car for sure. And again, teammates, so you know, it's a good opportunity for them to have similar setup and have the same type front end settings.
Just thinking about the restart and her being right in the middle of it. And if it's not where it needs to be once you get going, boy, that could create problems for a lot of drivers around her. On the other side of that, 11 cars on the lead lap. So even if it's not where it needs to be and she's off on speed, you stay out, you hang on, and you get a decent finish out of it with 30 laps to go now.
Good comparison of those right fronts. Camera guys getting their money there.
Yeah, I think it's still more than the 20, her teammate, but we'll see how she's able to hold on here. She was going after Giro for the 5th spot, so she's had a great run going here. Hopefully this will not cripple her too much.
Tony entered the night 4th in points.
And obviously the reason our crew chief asked how's the wheel, if you knock the toe out, the wheel's going to be turned, you know, 45 degrees to the left or right, and she said it's close enough.
Restart 29 to go. Outside lane in the 18, control car William Sawalich. Inside of him, the 28, Connor Zilish. A couple of 17-year-olds ready to do battle for a win at Indianapolis Raceway Park.
Remember, there's a restart line, not a restart zone here in this series.
Great launch last time when we went green for Sawalich in that outside lane.
Much better restart for the 28 on the inside of Connor Zilish.
Is he going to try to do it right now? And he is.
Zilish slides him up the track.
Gonna have momentum on exit.
I think Zilish is thinking, this is my time right here. Sideways.
Gets away from Zilish. He hangs on to it. Sawalich has the lead.
And Sawalich just put it on his door on entry. He wasn't going to allow him the slide job. He said, put it tight.
Teammates again for 3rd. Perez inside of Scott. And trouble once more. And that's Breidinger.
Oh.
Caution number 5.
Yeah, McLaren came along and tried to go to the outside. There was not room there.
Man, that day just turned in a hurry for the 25, Tony Breidinger.
It's the hardest hit we've seen tonight.
Yeah, long day for Jackson McLaren as well. We've seen him be a part of a few cautions.
See Tony moving around in the car. That's good. That's a good sign.
Interesting to see what started all that there in turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, again, I think her car was a little bit crippled, and I'm sure she was trying to hustle it for all it was worth.
Wallace Allen damage.
A lot of damage on his ride.
We thought it was been a little bit excessively, and now it looks like it's been even more than
done. It's done.
Good to see Tony out of the car. Frustrated, no doubt.
Just so demoralizing after having a good run running in the top 10 the entire race.
We see her drop back already 5-6 spots from where she started. Wallace Allen gets in and gets loose, catches her in the left rear.
Yeah, that was the cause of the incident, is the 33 of Wallace Allen getting into Tony. See Jackson McLaren out of the car as well.
He's had a few moments in this race tonight, McLaren.
Yeah, that one there was pretty late. I mean, I got to say, I feel like that one could have been avoided with Tony being in the wall for so long. Typically, when there's smoke, you just got to get out of the gas, and not a lot on the line there to stay in it.
Could have been a situation where he got hard on the brakes as well, just like we saw Tony earlier, locking the brakes up. And again, these cars will not turn when the brakes are locked up. Could have ended the day for Wallace Allen, having a solid run, running in the top 10 this entire event.
Lawless now going to turn his focus to the Craftsman Truck Series that comes your way 8:30 Eastern Time, just over an hour away, live on FS1.
Talked about this restart. Obviously, see the 25 up top there as well.
So Wallace was not going to allow the 28 of Zilich to do a slide job on him. He drives it hard down in the corner as well. See, the 28 gets a little bit loose, does all he can do to stay off the 18.
He really did a pretty good job of maintaining second the way that thing was dancing around.
There's contact. That's in turn 1 and 2.
We say it was going to get more aggressive.
Yeah. Now we're going to race side by side down the backstretch, and it's going to be even worse, I think, when we get down here to 3 and 4.
Yeah, and he didn't like the way he got run into off of 2, and he pinched that entry to keep Zilich from being able to drive in like that again, and Zilich paid the price.
So we get another restart with right around 20 laps to go. And actually, they're going to stop the cars here on the back straightaway, but we'll get the restart right around 20 laps to go. Who has the advantage? Because Sawalich is going deep into the playbook now, and Zilich has seen it. So where does this weigh out? Even though Sawalich is the control car, can Zilich take advantage knowing some of the games that can be played from that outside lane?
Well, remember, I just mentioned that there's not a restart zone like we have in the top 3 series of NASCAR. There's only a restart line, and the rule is that the leader has to get to that line first. So I don't think there's as many games to play for our leader Sawalich as there would be if there was a restart zone, because he can go early, he can go the middle, he can go late. Now that line, and if he doesn't go by that line, if he tries to go late, then the flagman will start the race.
Yeah, I just think that line makes it tough for second place, because we've seen multiple times this year where someone has beaten the leader by
inches
and been black flagged. So if you're Connor Zilich, you know you cannot play with fire in that zone, or that line, I should say, and that makes you hesitate. We saw that 2 restarts ago. He did not get a good jump, but we also mentioned earlier in the race how strong the whole 28 group has been at restarts. Their transmission ratios, I remember this race last year, how good they were jumping the starts on Jesse Love in the 20 car. So I look to Connor Zilich and say, hey, this group's been dominant on restarts, but William Sawalich being on the outside, that's where I want to be. When I line up, I want to take that outside because I can be defensive there, and it's going to require the 28 of Connor Zilich to be super aggressive to be able to be getting by this 18 of William Sawalich.
And there probably will be more contact as well, just like we saw in this last restart.
Well, and look down the whole left side of the 18 now. You've got donuts down the bottom of the side skirts as letters are off the left rear tire. I mean, hopefully that left rear tire is going to make it through this race, but I would imagine the same thing is going on the right side of Connor Zilich's car after all that.
Heather?
And catching up now with Matt Ross, so we can ask him here, Trevor. We saw that the Goodyear was rubbed off on the left rear tire. Any concern that something's going to happen there with that tire?
No, I think the tire is just fine. There's minimal body damage. I know he has a lot of right front damage, but the tire's fine. It looks up, so we should be all right.
So they were talking about who they think has the advantage here on the restart. Of course, you guys control it. Do you think you have the advantage over the 28 at this point?
We do. I think we're about a half a tenth to a tenth better than they are. We have better drive. We look more controlled, at least off of forks, for what we could see. So I think we're in pretty good shape as long as we can keep it together on these restarts.
And any direction from either you or Tony Hirschman in the spotters stand to tell William right now for this restart?
No, just keep doing what he's doing. The last three's been pretty good, so that'll be it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Kneeling on the spotter stand with those two running 1-2. I'd love to hear some of that conversation on the radio. Big finish coming at Indianapolis Raceway Park. For now, we're under the red flag with 25 to go. And a lot of drama to unfold, I'm sure, as we have removed the red flag and gone back to the yellow.
And Matt Ross is, pretty confident. He thinks they have a half a tenth or a tenth on Connor Zilich, but it's all about the restart.
Listen, I've heard a lot of crew chiefs talking to race car drivers, and I feel like he was just practicing there to hype up his driver. Yeah, we're the best by far. How about on the other side there?
Well, Trevor, we're going to get the other side answer right now. Shane Huffman, crew chief for the 28. They think they have the advantage on you guys here on this restart. How do you feel about it?
I would feel that way if I were them, probably. But, we've got a lot of racing left to do, and it's short track, So, I've got a lot of faith in Connor. In all honesty, they were a little further off in the first half and swung a lot bigger than what we had to. So, it closed the gap a lot more, and they got control of the race, and it's probably hurt us a little bit. But I feel like Connor can get the job done when it comes down to it, and we'll see what happens.
He's been asking a lot about what the other drivers are doing and what he should do on this restart. What did you guys tell him there?
Well, I'm not going to tell you everything there, but the main thing is we want to race respectfully, but we also want to win. So at the end of the day, it's short track racing, and those guys do a really good job, and my guys do a really good job too. So it comes down to those two kids out there, and whatever happens, happens.
Thanks for your insights, Shane.
Thank you. And he goes on to say what we were talking about. When you have the lead at a break, when you have an opportunity to make some changes, sometimes you're a little more hesitant to make changes. And on the 18 felt like they were beat, so they took a big swing at it, as Shane was just saying, was change the lift for shock, probably among other changes, and it seems to have worked for them.
Well, I can tell you the abbreviated version of what went on with Connor there and what they told him. And it sounded something like, do what you got to do, right? They're telling him, hey, man, if you got to move him out of the way, move him out of the way. We want to win this race. Go get it.
Be respectful, but it is short track racing.
I don't know if they ever said be respectful, Adam, to be honest. On TV he did.
Shane might not have said that
right.
to
he said it does, just not
Connor.
on the radio,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like the confidence of both of those crew chiefs, and they both think very highly of their young drivers. They've worked with them in the past. They've both won with them in the past. So they know right now it's a jump ball to see who's going to get this restart.
ARCA Menards Series racing in Indiana tonight. We'll do it again next weekend on the short track in Salem, another awesome venue.
Yeah, high bank short track, though, at Salem. We talk about how flat this racetrack is. That one has plenty of bank.
Got Elko on the board, heading to Michigan, which is always fun and wide open. A little dirt racing on the docket.
That same weekend. They're going to race at Michigan on Friday and Springfield, Illinois on Sunday.
I don't know how you get much different than that.
You don't.
Milwaukee with the Truck Series that weekend.
Yeah, great venue up Milwaukee.
The Coin, always a fun show. Going to be 21 laps remaining when we see the green flag again. Who can deliver off of that front row? William Sawalich outside, Connor Zilich on the inside. Row 2, teammates Scott and Perez.
This could be the determining factor of who wins this race right here on this restart.
Here we go, one more time at IRP.
Another good restart by that 28, dead even going in the corner.
I thought Sawalish got a good jump, but Zilish is there, slides up in front, crossover from the 18.
I know he didn't stay in front of Sawalish there, but now he has a preferred lane. You want to be on that outside to be defensive. Great job by Connor Zilish, driving under him in turn 1.
Certainly considerate racing by the 18 of Sawalish down there in the corner. He could have leaned on that 28 of Zilish, but he didn't.
What a restart for the 28. He reclaims the top spot with 20 laps to go.
As Trevor said, he has control of this race now. It's all up to him.
We know how hard it is to pass. Saw it early when LeVar Scott had command. Saw it again when Zilish took over late in that opening stint of the race, and we saw it again here in the latter stages with Sawalish having the field in tow. Jamie?
Tony Breidinger has now been released from the infield care center, and when she was in the car, she said to her team, physically I'm fine, but I know you were so upset. You had such a good run that was going there. What happened in that incident?
Yeah, I just feel bad for my team. They gave me a really fast car. I was trying to be as patient as possible. I know how important it is for us to, stay in the race for point standing. So just disappointed for my team, my sponsors. We work really hard to be here. I don't know. I think there's just a million things I could have done different. So I just feel bad, honestly.
A lot to learn, guys.
Such a great night going for Tony. Ends up crashed and out of the race. Came in 4th in points.
Battle here for the 4th spot. LeVar Scott, the 6 car, has it. Gio Ruggiero, the 20, trying to grab it, trying to move to the inside.
Ruggiero getting after it, isn't he?
Remember, he said he was going to spend the first half of the race just trying to learn not to abuse his equipment. But I think what he finds right now is I don't think that car is quite up to par with what, certainly what our 2 leaders, Zilish and Sawalish, have right now.
And right now, Zilish is checking out 3/10 faster lap before, 2/10 this lap faster than Sawalish. We saw it at the end of the first half where he drove away. Obviously, you see the lap times up there. That 23:37 for Connor Zilish is really fast for this late in the run.
I think the fastest lap we've seen this entire race was around 23 flat, 23:05. So, as you said, that is really fast.
14 laps to go, and with all the data that you guys are pointing out, Connor Zilish says, just don't give me another caution. Let me drive this thing to the checkered flag.
Yeah, I think he has enough of a cushion now that even lap traffic would not affect him that much. Over a second lead right now.
In most of the lap traffic, drivers that are damaged, cars that are battered and beaten up, so they're not going to put up a fight. Shouldn't be a problem for Connor here. 13 laps to go.
Well, what impresses me the most is that last restart. We saw one right before that where he got so loose trying to drive underneath William Sawalish, and for him to reset and to commit to that same level again, knowing how he almost crashed, but he gets the job done. That capacity for a young driver is just something you really can't teach. You have to have that naturally and have that ability to go after.
Trying to be perfect, trying to go for 3 for 3 in the National Series, trying to prevent that car right there from getting 3 in a row here in the National Series.
Still see him opening up that gap over a second and a half now. Not going to catch too many lap cars here with only 10, 11 to go. Maybe some of the slower cars off the pace, but the ones that make it difficult are those top 10 or so that you start catching that are running similar lap times that are hard to get by.
I don't think there's enough laps left to get to those.
That's right.
Talking about the top 2, let's pay off our point leader. Andres Perez having another good night. He's 3rd. LeVar Scott coming off his best career finish at Berlin. Top 5 again in the 4th position. And we talked about Gio Ruggiero. 4 starts coming in, 2 seconds, 2/3. He's top 5 once again. 5th with 10 laps remaining.
Just like you mentioned, Zilish is saying, please no caution flag. Let's get to the end of this thing.
Nine remaining now.
There's Chris Wright trying to move in on his teammate Gio Ruggiero, the 20. Chris has done a pretty nice job. This is as high a position as he's run, I think, this entire race.
Marco Andretti doing a nice job. 7th, been in the top 10 most of the night.
Nice recovery for Greg Van Alst as well, running in the 9th spot. His teammate, Isaac Johnson, running in the 10th spot. So 2 cars for Greg Van Alst right now running in the top 10.
What a great night for them when you consider that they had spent so much time a lap down. Van Alst gets back on the lead lap. Johnson still scored 2 laps down, but they're managing their way in the latter stages, as you said, both inside the top 10. 7 to go for Zilisch. Jamie?
Going back to the number 15 of Chris Wright. He talked about this being the best he's run all night. Well, in the first half of that race, he was just way too tight, and we really learned about tire conservation. And so the team freed him up. They said, just make sure you save those tires. And the second half of the race, he's been much happier, and he's been able to make some gains to stay inside of the top 10.
Wright was a lap down. Early part of this race, got a free pass and making the most of it. He's, as Jamie pointed out, now 6th. Zilisch coming back to 5 laps to go in that 28.
Yeah, almost a 2-second lead now on Sawalich and a couple lap cars in between them.
Done such a good job of managing the evening. Didn't start where he wanted to. Drives up, takes the race lead, very patient. Was out in front of the field at the midway break. Lost the lead on a restart to Sawalich. Had several opportunities, couldn't take advantage. But just over 20 to go. He jumps back on point, and he's in charge now. 4 to go at IRP.
Nice move around a couple lap cars for Sawalich.
Yeah, this group, I mean, I know they're not leading the race, but they made a huge change. And we've well documented that shock change at halfway. That was a big swing. Seemed to pay off for them, just not enough to catch this 28 car tonight.
But this illustrates how hard it is to pass. We know that the 18 was able to dominate the race once he got that lead on the restart. 28 really couldn't do much with him. And then the 28 car, who obviously had a pretty good car, potentially could have been faster than the 18 at the time, but you have to be a good bit faster than somebody to pass him. And that's a great illustration of that.
2 laps to go. He'll see the white flag next time around. The advantage just under 2 seconds for Connor Zilisch.
Coming up on the lap car, Cody Dennison won him. Oh no! Oh no!
Amber Balkan goes around. We get a caution. Unbelievable.
Wow. I think you already had your notes for the winner over there, Adam.
Yeah, I have to put those back in the file. And William Sawalich says, thank you very much.
Wow.
Another opportunity for that 18 team.
Well, and he got the lead from the bottom. Instantly, they're thinking about what lane do we take. I still think the top is the right lane. You just have to crowd that bottom car and cannot let him drive in and do that slide job that we saw Connor Zilisch do to William Sawalich.
Yeah, we will have unlimited attempts at a green-white checker finish because this caution came out with 2 laps to go. They will get green the first time, then white the second time. If the caution comes out again on that first lap, then they'll do it over again with another green-white checker. If they get a caution on the last lap after the white flag is displayed, then they will do 1 lap over again. This is going to be what caused the caution. Looks like Zachary Tinkle. Oh, no contact there. Amber was trying to stay ahead of the 11 of Zach Tinkle, and unfortunately gets around. Keeps it out of the inside wall, but much to Connor Zilisch's dismay, the caution did come out.
Is there a reason you had a lot of emphasis on unlimited restart attempts there?
Well, I've watched the last 2.
Hey, we got a truck race coming up at 8:30. I mean, at some point, we got to get prepared for that.
Yeah, well, then it may not be unlimited, then, actually.
Yeah, we could get timed out on this race. We'll let the officials handle that, and we'll just call the action on track.
Yeah, no contact at all.
See that left rear tire cross that seam? We talked about how slick those can be. And it doesn't take much here. There's no banking to catch those cars.
See, Amber is running right now in the 13th position.
Shane Huffman said, are you kidding me?
He doesn't even want to look at the racetrack. He's scratching his head thinking, what do we do now?
And I've got to think this is worse for Shane. He's obviously was a great short track racer. He knows what this feels like. But he's sitting on a pit box. He has no control at this point. He's along for the ride.
We got to take the outside. I think that's the place to go. you know, that's the place to be. Even though Sawalich got beat from the inside, and if I'm Sawalich, I'm salivating that I get another opportunity inside, outside, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, if you do your job on the outside and keep it tight to their door, the only thing you're hoping is that they don't just overdrive the car and wipe you both out. That's what the downside to the outside is. The downside to the inside is if you choose it and lose, you know that you picked the weaker lane and you lost the race. So that's a really tough call at this racetrack. We've seen people get the lead from either lane, so man, you just got to go with your gut on this one.
Just got word from ARCA officials because of time in the truck race that's coming up, 1 attempt at overtime tonight.
Gotcha. And there will be 2 laps, and if the caution were to come out any time, then the race would be considered official, as we see the Gray brothers heading towards probably the driver introduction at some point. Taylor in the front, Tanner running behind with a black fireproof shirt on.
Heather?
Well, William Sawalich's spotter, Tony Hirschman, just came over the radio and told him, hey, bud, this is where you make your money. So let's see if the 18 can get past this 28 here.
Williams hoping he gets to skip victory lane, but after a win, and then go strap in that truck.
Well, when we say it's all about the restart, generally it isn't. This one is absolutely all about the restart.
Zilish lines up inside, Sawalich to his outside. How about that?
Inside. I'm surprised.
First time we've seen it tonight.
Just felt like he was going to get used up, I guess, and decided he controls his own destiny a little more down there on the bottom.
Sometimes 8 tires is better than 4.
Well, he's going to have to commit in turn 1 to clearing that 18 car. Otherwise, it's going to get really tough for him.
2 laps to finish it at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Zilish, Sawalich on the front row.
Great jump by the 28.
Huge jump. Zilish gets away. The battle for second is now on. Look at Perez coming through.
What a great start by Zilish. Battle Chris Wright in the 15, battling Ruggiero in the 20 for 5th.
White flag this time around. 1 more for Connor Zilish.
How about Perez now grabbing the 2nd spot?
That's not over yet. Sawalich is there. How about Connor Zilish? 3 starts this year. It's going to be 3 victories. Connor Zilish going to win it at Indianapolis Raceway Park.
Big win. Once he got that jump, it didn't matter which lane he was in. He was clear by the start-finish line.
What a great restart by the 28 of Zilish. Well-deserved win.
Turns 18 on Monday, so he'll have
present.
Plenty to celebrate a few days early.
Well, and now he can celebrate the fact he could go to some 1.5 miles and try some of these bigger racetracks. He's been bound to the short tracks and road courses due to age.
Xfinity Series, we've talked about the fact that he's going Xfinity Racing for Junior Motorsports.
And the resume just continues to grow. 3-0 this season. And you look across the board at what he has done when he's come over and run on the national side in the ARCA Menards series. He has been impressive, and he knows how to celebrate victory.
The ARCA Menards series has produced some pretty incredible talent over the past 4 or 5 years. You think about Ty Gibbs, Jesse Love, Corey Heim, and I think this guy that we're looking at right there, Connor Zilish, is going to be a name added to that list very soon, if not already.
Perez, the point leader, hangs on for 2nd. Sawalich ends up 3rd. LeVar Scott, who led laps early, ends up 4th. Ruggiero keeps his top 5 streak alive. He was 5th here at IRP. Chris Wright 6th. Andretti, Marco finished in the 7th position. Greg Van Alst from Anderson, Indiana, came in 2nd in points, was 8th. Dean Thompson 9th, and the rookie Isaac Johnson rounds out the top 10.
He's one of run on some great stages. Daytona this year in the 24-hour race. Dover, Iowa. Sebring, now here in Indianapolis.
I remember when he showed up at COTA this year in Austin, Texas to run the truck race and was so strong in practice and qualifying, and Kevin Harvick said, this kid's got a lot of talent, and he continues to show it, Heather.
Yes, he does, and Connor Zilic will get win number 3 and start number 3 here in the ARCA National Series. We have to go back to that moment. What went through your mind when the caution came out and you had such a big lead?
Yeah, no, first off, I just want to say thank you to my Silver Hair Racing family. None of this would be possible without Maurice and Laura Hull for taking a chance on me 2 years ago and giving me my first shot in a stock car. But yeah, I mean, this Silver Hair Racing, Pinnacle Racing Group Chevrolet was so fast, and I kind of messed up 2 restarts in a row, and luckily I got a 3rd shot at it. And you know, I could just hear Josh Wise and Scott Speed in the back of my head, you know, telling me what to do. And you know, we've prepped for this stuff, prepped for this race for weeks now, and it just feels good to have that prep pay off and, you know, get my team a win. And in this critical situation, we're racing for a championship, and these wins matter a lot. So just so thankful for my entire team for everything they've done, my Silver Hair Racing family back in North Carolina, and my entire family for being the best support system.
What went into the decision to choose the bottom for that restart?
Yeah, I just wanted leverage. You know, when I'm on the bottom, I have more control than when I'm up top. So you know, as long as I, you know, beat him to the start-finish line and got a good run, I knew I could kind of slide myself and get clear off of 2. So, you know, it's all about leverage in these games, and obviously, you know, me and the 18 have had a little bit of history, so I just didn't want to take a chance on it, and, you know, I'm glad it paid off.
Congratulations to Connor Zilic, your winner here at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. Jamie?
Andres Perez now collecting a hat. The helmet is off. Best finish of the season for you. You weren't able to lead any laps, but you were right there pushing at the end. What did you learn as this race progressed?
Yeah, I think we're happy with the result at the end. Of course, it was a tough race. We lacked pace in the beginning, got better in the pit stop, which made us better at the end, and then just try to get as much as we could in the last restarts. And I think we're happy with second. Obviously, we're trying to get as much points as possible, but that win is also what we need. So yeah, we'll keep pushing hard for the next ones.
Keep pushing, but it was a solid day for points. Nice job.
He continues to knock on the door for that first career victory. Came into point leader, another solid run, and he will be atop the standings again, halfway home in 2024. The lead over second place Greg Van Alst, 46 markers for Andres Perez.
Yeah, that's just about a full race. 49 points is the most points you can get in any race, but LeVar Scott does a nice job, only 47 points behind now. You see Chris Wright has moved up to the 4th spot with Tony Breidenger's problems.
Yeah, Breininger now falls to 6th, 79 points out. So it was a crazy ending. We went to overtime. Couple of hot young drivers restarted on the front row, and it's Connor Zilic who delivers, getting his 3rd win of 2024. Coming your way, 8:30 Eastern Time. It's the Craftsman Truck Series. Michael Waltrip will join us for the call. Thank you for watching ARCA with Trevor Bain, Phil Parsons. I'm Adam Alexander. We'll see you in a bit. Now it's Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour podcast.